The Eagles fall to the Buccaneers on Thursday Night Football. The Cowboys continue to surge, and Ben Simmons suspended for a game already causing issues. This is the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show. Stay tuned. What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday to all of you out there. It is October 19th, 2021, 4:04 p.m. here on the East Coast, and we are live from Westchester, Pennsylvania. It is great to join all of you today. It is a lot. There's a lot to break down. That's an understatement. We have a lot to unpack. There's a lot going on. As always, joined alongside my co-host Gab and Tony. I keep saying it, but it's the truth. There is so much to unpack. Some positive, some negative. Anything about Philly sports right now is pretty much just negative. Flyers won last night. We'll touch on that. But NBA kicks off tonight. The Bucks, the Nets, the Warriors, the Lakers. It is that time of year again. We are excited. 82 games on tap for the National Basketball Association after the last 2 years of shortened seasons, 60-some 2 years ago and 72 last year. This is it, Gavin. We're here. Not a lot of hype surrounding this team. A pretty quiet offseason for the majority of teams in the NBA. Some of the biggest moves in the league, Kyle Lowry going to the Miami Heat, but a lot of re-signings. A lot of not too much in the free agency frenzy. Klay Thompson not expected to play tonight. He is still recovering from a torn Achilles. He is not yet in game shape. Sixers play the Pelicans tomorrow. Anyway, opening night. We're here. We've made it. It seems just yesterday we were crowning the Bucks as NBA champions. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of big moves. Russell Westbrook again going to the Lakers. We unpack a relatively quiet offseason, but there were still some big moves. Carmelo Anthony going to the Lakers, and the Brooklyn Nets continuing to build some depth for them. Of course, Kyrie Irving not going to be playing tonight for against the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks. So we will get to that in a little bit. We will touch base on the NBA. We will touch base on the entire Ben Simmons saga. But we're going to start the day talking about what happened over the weekend in the National Football League, starting with Thursday night, honestly. We'll start off today talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, as we always do, and then we'll go to our one sentence or less describing every single game. At the moment, Philadelphia Eagles lost on Thursday to the defending champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers 28-22. Tom Brady was 34 of 42, 297, 2 TDs, and a pick. The Eagles, on the other hand, Jalen Hurts 12 of 26, 115, a touchdown, a pick. Miles Sanders 9 carries, 56 yards, 6.2 yards per carry. And just on the wide receiving side, not too much impressive, but Quez Watkins did have 3 receptions for 44 yards. Smith 2 for 31. Zach Ertz 4 for 29. Another story that we will be covering here in just a minute, of course. But before all of that, before we unpack anything else, let's start with Thursday night, Gavin. The Buccaneers, the Eagles, unpack it for us, 22-28 loss for the Eagles.
Well, first of all, Zach, I hope your weekend was well, and I'll just keep it short and sweet. That game was not close. The scoreboard says one thing, but if you watch the game, ladies and gentlemen, it was not pretty. The offense looked distraught. It looked not as great. The opening drive looked pretty promising. They were going to go pound for pound, but it got ugly after that. Zach, Nick Sirianni cannot coach, and he needs to get out the city faster than Ben Simmons needs to get out the city. Now, Zach, let me tell you why. Miles Sanders, every game, has averaged at least 4.5 yards per carry, correct?
Sounds right.
Why do you not run the football with him more? Why do you? And you, my friend, you are an advocate for running the football. You run the football 25 times. I'll never forget this. You run the football more than 25 times. The Eagles do. They win the majority of the games, especially with Miles Sanders.
They have one loss in the last 4 seasons when they run the ball less than 25 times, or more than that, more than 25.
I haven't saw that, Zach. This coach is allergic to running the football, especially in the red zone. I don't understand it. And it's the same things every time they get in the end zone. Zach, they put together a beautiful drive. They'll go down the field. They'll get a touchdown and it gets called back. Then you stall, and the next thing you know, it ends in 3. And the defense, my goodness, Zach, Jonathan Gannon is a second half coach. He can't coach in the first half. He's allergic to doing anything positive in the first half whatsoever. And finally, Zach, before I hand it over to you, this team is finally in rebuild. All right, let's start shipping players out while we can get value for it. This rebuild can be quick and it go smoothly, But it's happening, ladies and gentlemen. For those who think this team is competing, it's actually the Cowboys at the division. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Trayvon Diggs is on another level. Dak Prescott is that guy this year. CeeDee Lamb continues to evolve. And Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard are on pace. I have to check again, Zach, but they were on pace for both 1,000-yard rushing seasons. And lastly, Zach, you brought it to me. I want to say it was Sunday that the Eagles shouldn't have drafted Jalen Hurts. You're right. Maybe they should have stuck it out with Carson Wentz. Maybe it was the media. But Zach, we never know. We're just outsiders. We just speculate. This is what we do. We sit here. We talk about what should have happened, what shouldn't have happened. But I'll stand by this. Nick Sirianni should never have been hired, and Howard Roseman should have went as well.
There's some parts there that I can understand, but again, I'm going to say this until this team honestly has enough talent to compete. It doesn't. So until then, there's not much you can throw on the coaching staff. The Eagles played a very good Buccaneers team, and they lost by 6. They played the defending champions, and they lost by 6. And what do I always say? I say young teams that are relatively talented, they tend to lose one-possession games against these teams. Well, let's take a look back at their season. We know they blew out the Falcons week 1. They lost by 6 to a San Francisco 49ers team who is now injured, but at the time was good and respected. They lost by 6 to that team. Blown out by the Cowboys. They lose by 12 to the Chiefs. You can argue the late touchdown by the Eagles, but again, there was also a late touchdown by the Chiefs, so it equals out. And then they beat the Panthers, and then they lose to the Bucs by 6. They're kind of on pace for what I expected this year. They're about where they should be. But like you said, Gavin, they need to run the ball. There's no excuse for that. Nick Sirianni will be on the hot seat soon. I think it's still too early. 2 things I did like about Nick Sirianni on Thursday, believe it or not, I do have compliments for him. Number 1 is that the penalties were significantly less this week. I did notice that. Number 2, there were no multiple screens. So it was 1 or 2 screens that didn't work. They didn't abuse them. They didn't overrun them. I think Nick Sirianni learned from that. Started giving Miles Sanders the ball late, and look what happened. So hopefully that's a step in the right direction. Hopefully this staff continues to improve. And yes, there are many question marks around the quarterback. But I will defend Jalen Hurts.
His arm is Zach, sorry to cut you off, but that's just something that can't be ignored. Jalen Hurts' arm is good.
I will defend him today. I will defend him today because it was only his 10th career start. This team is clearly not talented around him. And the offensive line is shuffling. Ready? The same issues that we saw last year with Carson Wentz in the lineup. And I said it back then. All right? And if we take a look right now, statistically, Jalen Hurts this year, he's got 8 touchdown passes. He's got 4 interceptions, 88.6 passer rating. Overall, he has improved from last year in both the touchdown interception ratio and his passer rating. But his passer rating is still horrible. And, yeah, they scored 22 points. They were punch for punch. His passer rating was a 55.8. And less the Chiefs game and the Falcons game, he's been about a 70 or so passer rating. He simply put has not done anything that shows somewhat potential. Trevor Lawrence, it only took 4 or 5 games. Again, he's the first overall pick, so I hate to compare apples to oranges. But at the moment, Jalen Hurts, he has a little too much confidence for it to be backed up. And at the moment, I'm worried about what he can do. So right now, his current completion percentage is sitting at 62%, which is about the league average, a little bit below it. But the past 2 weeks, it's been 59% and 46%. And they went 1-1 in those 2 games. That was more of a team win versus just an individual performance win. There's a lot of things that need to be done for this team. Lane Johnson is expected to be back this week. Let's see what happens as they start to get healthier. But overall, I still have my questions. And I'm going to say this. I believe this the entire time. I've said it on a multiple amount of occasions. I believe that the Eagles should have done whatever they could, similar to the Ben Simmons situation, to be able to tough it out with Carson Wentz. And right now he is thriving in Indianapolis. And
I wouldn't say thriving.
Well, Gavin, yes, he's thriving. He is definitively
He looks better.
Purely statistical number is thriving. He has 9 touchdowns to 1 interception. Not the second best or third best or fourth. He has the best touchdown to interception ratio this year. And he wouldn't have an interception if it wasn't for that stupid underhand play call from Frank Wright. His passer rating is 102.4. That ranks top 10 in the top 7 in the league. And past 2 weeks alone, 128.5, 127.7. They should have beaten the Ravens. It was not Carson Wentz's fault that they lost. At the moment, Carson Wentz, very definitively, having a much better season than the Philadelphia Eagles' Jalen Hurts, which continues to support my case that the supporting cast of this team is not good enough for any quarterback. So what do we do from here? At this point, I think it's time to tank. I think it's time for the Philadelphia Eagles to ship away Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks, Fletcher Cox. 3 guys that hold a lot of value, 3 guys that are getting old, 3 guys that are in the middle of their contracts. You can get some good second round, third round, fourth round, maybe a fifth round, and worst round picks for those guys at this moment. You clear up a lot of your salary. You already have 3 top 10 picks next year, possibly top 15, top 20, depending on how the Colts and Dolphins end up doing. But at the moment, in this very moment, the Eagles have 3 top 8 overall picks. You go O-line, D-line, O-line. And then the year after that, if Jalen Hurts still doesn't work out, then you can start having the conversation of going for being able to get a different quarterback. But at the moment, I will say this. I will continue to say this and hold to it. The O-line, simply put, is good when healthy, but it can't stay healthy. You got to move these guys. The Cleveland Browns rebuilt their O-line in less than 2 years. The Buccaneers rebuilt their O-line in less than a year. And it's not that hard to do. It's really not that hard to rebuild an O-line because it's not that hard to hit on offensive linemen. There are so many talented ones in the league, especially with Jeff Statwin as your head coach of the offensive line. So we will talk about Zach Ertz in a minute. That is the biggest news of the weekend for the Eagles. But Gavin, those are just some of my initial thoughts on how the Philadelphia Eagles need to start addressing this team, given that they are not healthy ever, and that's an issue that needs to be fixed right now, and are unable to compete because of their lack of talent.
Well, getting younger is a good start, Zach. I don't disagree with you when it comes to that. The offensive line has never been healthy. It has been healthy ever since the Super Bowl year, and even that offensive line was dinged up. Whether it was Jason Peters, the bodyguard who can't block anything for Justin Fields, so I don't know. But I will say this, Zach. It's not that hard to rebuild the offensive line. You looked at the Browns, Colts. You can say Colts did the same thing too. It's a shame that when the offensive line actually got good, Andrew Luck decided to stop playing. Tom Brady and the Bucks, they revamped the offensive line, so it's not that hard. But I think the problem with the Eagles the most is holding on to players for too long and bringing back players that don't need to be brought back. Guys that just had no business coming back. It's like, I get it. It was a reunion. He only played one game, really just one game. And ladies and gentlemen, I know the games he played was probably more than one game, but it was one game you felt like you saw him basically last year. Now, last season you adjusted the wide receivers. This year you got him with more speed, and I think Quez Watkins is actually going to be nice. He's doing something every week that gives you some hope. Devontae Smith's going to be fine. I'm still not a big fan of Jalen Reagor, Zach. I'll come out and say it. And the direction, just make sure you have a direction going on. Right now, there's a lot of things going on. You're in this odd phase where Zach Ertz was the first piece to go. All right, so who's next? This team can't stay together long enough because they're not healthy. You got to get younger. You got to revamp. And Zach, it might be with a different coach too. And quarterback as well. You never know.
I will say this, as we wrap up this overall, it's frustrating because there are a lot of close opportunities, but you are at a point you've tried to retool the team, especially with the decision to go with a younger quarterback. You got to tear it down and build it back up. Same way Miami did it; they're having trouble this year. Same way Cincinnati did it. Honestly, they're doing well this year. Same way Jacksonville's attempting to do right now. The same way that the Chargers did it. The Chargers had a good roster. They went through a year or two of tanking, top 5 overall pick, and they were able to get Justin Herbert and rebuild that team in a 3-year span. The Eagles can be there again, but you got to be able to acknowledge early when you have to do it. So with that being said, we are going to touch base on the biggest story of the weekend. It was announced Friday morning that Zach Ertz was traded to the Arizona Cardinals for a 5th-round pick and a corner who has yet to play the game of football on an NFL field. You're not trading Zach Ertz for value. You're trading him to get his contract off of you and not to worry about paying him. They've committed to Dallas Goedert. That's kind of a given. Ertz has regressed over the last few years significantly. That also is also factored into a lack of targets. But with that being said, Zach Ertz's time in Philly has come to an end. It's sad. It's emotional. He issued a full page in the Philadelphia Inquirer this morning, thanking the Philadelphia fans for what they've done or what they mean to him. He understands this city. Tons of respect for him. It will not shock me if he either A, has a reunion down the road, or B, decides to retire as an Eagle. Much respect to him overall. Best of luck with the best team in the NFL, the Arizona Cardinals. So with that being said, like you said, Gavin, this is the first piece to fall. And at this point, we're going to have to just see what other pieces start to go down. I've named the 3 names that I would start moving off now. But again, that's still for time to tell.
Like my first initial reaction was I wasn't surprised. I actually thought it was a year late. You tried to work it out. You got into an argument with your general manager about contracts. That seemed to stall and ended up not being in the media no more. And this is the end result. I knew it was coming. Zach Ertz has regressed. He's one of the greatest tight ends probably to play for the Eagles outside of Brent Stark, most likely. We know what the connection of Wentz to Ertz was, but Hurts to Ertz was not a good combination. It just wasn't working, wasn't sticking. Dallas Goedert's younger. He plays more physical. He's a better run blocker than Zach Ertz is. I saw this one coming. This is just the first piece of fall. Now Zach Ertz, when it comes outside of football, I mean, man, Zach, you lose two people that meant a lot to the city, especially in foundation wise with the AO1 Foundation and the Zach Ertz. I think is the Zach Ertz the Ertz Foundation.
Much be the Earth Foundation.
It's the Ertz Foundation. That's a huge loss. He did a lot for the city. You're gonna miss him. You're gonna miss him. He was a people person. Zach, I wouldn't be surprised if he retires the Eagle. And if he doesn't retire Eagle, I actually would be upset.
I'd say it's likely that he does. He had a pretty. I mean, this is
right?
This was the bulk of his career, Super Bowl and everything. So, yeah. With that being said, Zach Ertz traded to the Arizona Cardinals. It wasn't for value or anything. It was purely for cap space. That is what a lot of teams do. I've said it before, Gavin. I give Howie Roseman a lot of credit when it comes to the draft capital that he's able to acquire. And this team is looking at right now 3 first-round picks. I will say this: if the Eagles do get a first-round pick because Carson Wentz does surpass 75% of passes, I will purchase a Carson Wentz jersey, Colts jersey.
Colts one?
I will buy a Colts jersey, probably the blue one.
The blue is sick.
White. I don't know. They're both pretty good. I actually like them both.
The blue and white is better. Blue and white.
All right, so we're gonna go with the blue one. If anyone wants to donate money to us for me to do it, otherwise I'll be fishing out of my pocket. But yes, I will have no problem purchasing a Carson Wentz jersey if he does get the Eagles that first-round pick. With that being said, there's a lot of draft capital coming up for the Eagles. They got to do it right. If they mess it up this time, Howie Roseman's time here is done. The Athletic article that came out last year, there's still a lot of issues that were covered up between the micromanagement of Jeffrey Lurie and the ownership structure. Those haven't went away at all. The disconnect between the talent office, the scouts, and Howie Roseman, the math and analytical department, there are still significant issues there. And until all this is addressed or fixed, then this team is going to be held back, essentially. Winning fixes everything, Gavin. They haven't been doing that lately, so that's kind of where I stand on that.
I'll keep it short and sweet, Zach. Do it right. Do it right in the draft. That's all you got to do, all right? I want to see another year of Jalen Hurts. I want to see offensive linemen being picked. I want the smart ones. I want the good ones. And, Zach, let's just rebuild it. Start from the ground up. You got it, but Zach, I think the rebuild has to focus on the areas that aren't the strongest as offensive line first. Build it from the trenches, as Jeff Saturday would say. But Zach,
that's how they've done it in the past. That's Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks, Andre Dillard. That's been their mojo. That's been their philosophy for years.
Great offensive line will win you a lot of games.
Without a doubt. Just another thing too, why people might be upset with the Zach Ertz trade, not necessarily because of Ertz leaving, but because of what you get in return. The Philadelphia Eagles, as of today, have the second most cap space in the 2021 season behind the Jacksonville Jaguars at $21.5 million, and that includes having over $57 million in dead money. Say what you want about Howie Roseman, but he knows how to work these numbers. They just need someone in there with him that knows how to look for talent. That's all you need, because he's good at everything else. The man is good at everything but looking at talent and finding the right talent. It's plain and simple. Someone else got help.
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut on that.
He's good at everything else. You can't deny that, Gavin.
I know. I can't deny that. That's why I'm keeping my mouth shut.
Dead cap hit in NFL history, and they still have the second most spending money going into next season at the moment.
Zach, I know I can't deny that. So I'm gonna keep my mouth shut.
And that's a significantly reduced salary cap at $183 million. Next year, it's projected to be over $209 million. So 3 first-round picks. They have the most first-round picks in the draft. They get a 4 or 5 in the first 2 rounds, depending on if they make any other moves. And the most arguably salary cap. If they dump these other 3 players, they need to do that soon. They need to do this. You need money. You got to draft the right pieces. You got to sign some good guys in free agency. That's how you get it done. But it's now or never. If they don't do it now, they're going to set themselves back 2-3 seasons.
So now or never, and Zach, I'll say this about Howard Roseman. When it comes to numbers, he's an A+. When it comes to attitudes, looking at talent and picking the obvious pick, he gets an F. But this past draft, I guess you could say he gets a B+ because Devontae Smith looks like he has a lot of potential.
And I will say this, and it's embarrassing, but Trayvon Diggs has more yards after interceptions than Jalen Reagor does receiving yards.
Say that again. Say that again.
Jalen Reagor. Okay, so
because there's a lot of people that come at me every day and say, "Oh, but Jalen Reagor this, Jalen Reagor." Say that again, please. Just say that again.
Trayvon Diggs and Jalen Reagor, both first-round draft picks in last year's draft. Trayvon Diggs has more yards after interceptions than Jalen Reagor does receiving yards.
My defensive player of the year right there.
It's an embarrassment, honestly, if you're the Philadelphia Eagles botching that draft pick, and everybody knew it at the time.
You could have got Justin Jefferson too. I take either one.
Yes, very unfortunate. With that being said, it is that time of the week. One sentence or less. Gavin and I go through every NFL game, and we use one sentence or less to describe each game. We already talked about the Eagles and the Bucs. We're not going to go into that too much more. Some exciting games this weekend. For the most part, pretty bland weekend, I'd say. But Dolphins and Jags. Oh, my injuries. The Miami Dolphins continue to battle injuries. Tua Tagovailoa coming back this week. A lot of people quick to call him a bust, considering that Justin Herbert was drafted one pick after him. But Tua Tagovailoa, 33 of 47 for 330 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. But just was not their day overall. Brian Flores, someone I'm a big fan of, and they have yet to prove their worth this year. Although as an Eagles fan, I'm happy. But Trevor Lawrence, first win. Him and Urban Meyer, their first win together. Let's see if they can continue going.
It's too early. Zach, it was too early to watch. Congratulations, Jacksonville. You can win in London, but you can't win at home. So I'll just leave it like that.
Yeah, no United States wins yet. Next game, Vikings Panthers. Neither team's good. It was a bloodbath early. It was very slow to start. No McCaffrey hurt. Sam Darnold's not the answer in Carolina, and the Vikings are continuing to be a stale team overall. But they got the win, so congrats.
Free Justin Jefferson. I'm just gonna keep saying it till I can, till he gets free.
All right, Chargers, Ravens. Reality strike. Los Angeles Chargers were cruising after a huge win over the Browns. I think they were tired this week. They were fatigued. Not a Super Bowl hangover, but some sort of hangover after a hype game like that. The Ravens just came over them, stormed them, and as I imagine Gavin is probably about to say, I'll say it for him before he does, big trust.
You know what? Way to take the words out of my mouth. I mean, Zach, Lamar Jackson's playing better than his MVP level season that he already had. He's playing better than that. And he has less around him. Zach, there's no J.K. Dobbins.
Most guys are injury reserve for a team.
Exactly. And they're still winning games. I'm going to limb to say it. This man's on another level. Get him a true number one wide receiver and see what really happens.
He's already got 1,700 yards this season, 9 touchdowns, 5 picks, a rating just below 100. He's on a good pace. Numbers-wise, 68% completion percentage, the best of his career. Next game on the list, Rams, Giants. Daniel Jones is officially not the answer. They've been waiting on him too long. They're blaming everything but him. It's year 3. He has nothing to prove. He has nothing to show. He has done nothing. Their big win at Seattle last year, he wasn't even on the field. It was their backup.
I'm trying to contain my laughter, but ladies and gentlemen, we have a good friend named Ryan, who will come out and say Danny Dimes after every weekend. Well, guess what, Zach? I didn't hear from him this weekend, so I guess you could say he ran out of dimes to throw out there.
Yes, again, not the answer. Rams continue to look good. Next game on our list, Texans, Colts. It's back-to-back. Carson Wentz posting 125-plus passer ratings in back-to-back games. They did something that they were a 2-4 team would not be expected to do. That was blowing out a far inferior opponent. Not too much to be impressed with, but with how the season started for Indy as a whole, Jonathan Taylor has come alive. T.Y. Hilton is back in the lineup haunting the Texans, and just a big blowout win for a team that is clearly much better than their record shows and better than the Texans team. It was good to see they were able to pull off a win. Texans are fighting for that first overall pick.
You see what happened with when you run the football? And especially give Carson Wentz a chance with a running back like that. It's like that was a great offense. I think they're going to get better and improve. That defense looks way better. I know it's a Houston, Texas team, so it's hard to say. But Carson Wentz looked comfortable this weekend. Can he build off that? That's the real question.
He did an 86-yard touchdown pass as well in there in the last week with Jonathan Taylor. It's just important to stat. I'm looking it up because I noticed it a couple weeks ago. They started the season against a lot of really good teams. And if we just go back on
Playoff
this,
team, to be exact. Playoff team.
they played this a healthy Seahawks team week 1. They played the Rams week 2, Titans week 3, and they played the Ravens week 5. Those are all playoff teams. They got the Niners this week, Titans next week, 2 more tough opponents. Then they get to go Jets and Jags, but then they have the Bill. I mean, this is a tough schedule, Gavin. This is a tough schedule for them. They're playing, as of right now, if the playoffs were to start today, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and a half if you count the Seahawks when they're healthy, when they played them, teams this year that they play. It's gonna be tough for them to make the playoffs. I'm not sure that they will, but they do have the Jets and Jags in there as well. They are expected to beat those teams. We'll see what they do. Next game, Chiefs and Washington. Second half, Patrick Mahomes' stats in the second half are significantly better than the first half. 31-13 blowout after trailing 13-10 at halftime.
Zach, what was my hot take? I texted you on Sunday. What did I say?
That they would, if they lose that game, that they're done.
Exactly.
There was a Dallas too.
If they lose to Dallas too. Now, Zach, I'll say this: the Chiefs, the way how they're playing football, sloppy, which is unheard of for Patrick Mahomes' offense, and the defense can't stop a nosebleed. Zach, they can't continue like this. They have to pick it up. You can't outscore everybody. They got lucky this weekend, but I don't know about another weekend.
All right, next game, Packers-Bears. I own you. Aaron Rodgers made it very clear to a fan flipping him off in the crowd at Soldier Field. I'll leave it at that. 5 straight wins for Green Bay.
I'll just leave it like that too. I own you. Zach, the K and P, the discount double check. I don't know what you want me to do. He's a bad man, but he's not. He's
not sold on him. Still not sold on him after that. After the offseason, but winning fixes everything, and that's very clear in this case. Bengals-Lions. They're doing what good teams do. They're blowing out teams that are much worse than them. Bengals are on their way to the playoffs. Don't look now. Bengals rebuilt very well. Joe Burrow is the answer.
Joe Burrow is the answer, but his health is my concern. Can you keep him upright? That's it. Keep him healthy, keep him upright.
Drafting Jamar Chase over Penei Sewell. Sewell playing for the Lions on Sunday. Jamar Chase playing for the Bengals. It's enough said. Next game, Cardinals-Browns. Injuries. Cardinals continue to look dominant, but with that being said, the Browns are very banged up. Both running backs out. Baker Mayfield, torn labrum in his left shoulder, unknown if he'll even play the rest of this year. But people are questioning Mayfield's ability to put the team on his back. We know that he can't. He needs running backs back there, so the Browns are in a lot of trouble so far.
The Browns had the most anticipation, the most high praise from everybody, and they're underperforming. Zach, it's unacceptable. The defense is not as what it was last year, especially the front line, front seven. I'll keep it short and sweet. Baker Mayfield's not the answer. Try someone else.
Next game, Cowboys-Patriots, 35-29, a game-winning touchdown to CeeDee Lamb in the end zone. Dak Prescott walking out of there with a boot, but apparently is fine. The Patriots are in every game. They are competitive in every game. They're going to be good. This is their coaching that keeps them close. They get some more talent on that team. Mac Jones will be in a very good position.
Mac Jones is average, everybody. Let's pump the brakes. But, Zach, I might start my campaign. As an Eagles fan, I hate to do this, but I'm going to have to start my campaign, Zach. Trayvon Diggs for Defensive Player of the Year, Defensive MVP. Let's run it. I mean, Zach, this guy's phenomenal. He's a cornerback that looks like a wide receiver. He just finds the ball. I mean, the next
7 picks in 6 games.
I mean, the next play he got burnt, but that's not really his fault. You can call it how you want. But Zach, I'm starting my I guess my campaign for him. I hate to do it as an Eagles fan, but you gotta witness greatness when you see it. You gotta call it out.
Without a doubt, again, like you said, Gavin, Mac Jones is having an average season, 7 TDs, 6 picks, but I think he's got a ways to go from here. He's on his way up. We'll see how they do. Raiders-Broncos. I don't know how you win with that much going on in your organization. Derek Carr handling it very maturely. Big win, 34-24 for the Raiders. They played the Eagles on Sunday. Broncos are back to mediocre. Their 3-0 start was against the Giants, the Jets, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. So no surprise there.
Fire Vic Fangio. That's it.
Next game on our list, Sunday Night Football, Seahawks-Steelers. Really? The supposed playoff team Steelers couldn't win by more than 3 points and needed an overtime fumble to do it. Steelers aren't good.
That's why TJ Watt got paid the big bucks, and DK Metcalf, watch your mouth when you're talking to Shannon Sharp like that on Twitter. That's a Hall of Famer you're talking to. You're just an average wide receiver that just started his career, so watch your mouth.
Is there a humbling problem with young NFL stars? That
I
would
think
be a
there
debate.
is. I think there
That'll
is.
be a debate for another time that we will
There is.
have to discuss also in the NBA argument between a player on the Sixers, but we'll get to that in a little
We'll
bit.
get to that. That's coming.
Final game of the weekend. Before this, I was down 55 fantasy points in my league, and I had Derrick Henry and Josh Allen, and they both pulled through. My team scored 65 points combined. I needed 55, so I won that league pretty easily. 34-31, a rarity. The only thing I'm going to do, Josh Allen is not going to fall down on that play most of the time. It was the right analytical play because if they decide to kick the field goal, you need the field goal to be good. You need to either win the coin toss or get a defensive stop, and then you got to go down and score a touchdown or a field goal. And then there's just so many factors going on there. Sean McDermott made the right decision. They got unlucky, but as expected, Tennessee Titans are one overtime loss to the Jets away from having the best record in the AFC. And Gavin, I know we debated fiercely over the weekend about running backs being paid.
Pay the running back.
But Derrick Henry, 20 carries, 143, 7.2 per carry, and 3 touchdowns, and a 21.8 mile per hour run up the middle for a touchdown. He is the Tennessee Titans. Is it enough to get them over the hump? I don't think so. As was proved.
Would you pay him? That's the argument we have with the weekend. Would you pay him?
As proved late in the game, Ryan Tannehill did need to step up. He did, but the King doing King things and having a phenomenal night. My favorite running back in the league and the best.
Would you pay him? That's the question I'm asking. Are you paying him?
His contract is not insane. I would pay him. I would give him that contract.
Okay.
That contract I'd give him.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll come back another day and we'll explain this ongoing argument about Zach not wanting to pay running backs.
We will look. The Ezekiel Elliott contracts, the Alvin Kamara
contracts. That was outrageous.
Christian McCaffrey contracts. I'm not a big fan of those for all different reasons. Number one, the Cowboys underutilize Zeke for the amount of money he makes. Number two, Kamara is in and out of the lineup and underutilized. And number three, McCaffrey is not able to stay healthy, therefore unable to get the money, which is a trend in the running back position. However, like Gavin said, that's certainly a debate for another time. We had a little one over the weekend. But with that being said, that wraps up week 6 of the NFL season. Week 7 starts on Thursday night. Broncos and Browns, another pretty bad primetime game. The NFL has some revisiting to do. But with that being said, coming up after this, Ben Simmons was fined $1.4 million for his missed preseason and suspended for the game against the Pelicans tomorrow night due to his refusal to participate in certain drills today in practice. Doc Rivers kicking him out of the practice. Is this my 5th grade YMCA basketball team, or is this the NBA? We have Dom Amoroso here to figure that out after this.
We are now offering a new product on our Teespring. Wear a mask in public. We are now supporting a custom designed mask with our logo on it. Purchase it today, and 10% goes to a foundation of our viewers' choice. It offers a full nose and mouth coverage, single-sided print, includes 2 2-inch elastic ear loops, non-medical grade product, and finally, $1 from every mask sale is donated to a nonprofit to feed children in need. Enjoy today's episode.
Yeah, I questioned whether or not this is 5th grade because it sounds like it. Oh, he didn't want to participate. I told him, you should just go home. All right, get in your $700,000 car and go back to your $3 million penthouse as you continue to rack up fines. I've been an adamant defender of Simmons in the past. I haven't been the past few months. However, I will admit that there are very few players that I can name that you could replace Ben Simmons with on this team and you would have better success. That's Damian Lillard, Steph Curry, and a combination of Colin Sexton and probably De'Aaron Fox, which would just barely give you it. The reason I say that is because there was a 3-way trade proposal between the Cavs, Kings, and Sixers a little while back. But the bottom line is that there's no one else that you're going to get that's going to help your team. However, that assumes that Ben Simmons is mentally here. He is uplifting the team, and he is doing what he usually would do when it comes to defense and playing well as a facilitator. That is not the case. Ben Simmons is mentally checked out. It is very clear at this point that a trade will happen in the coming weeks, and I do not expect Ben Simmons to step foot on the floor this season at all. I expect him to continue to get his fines, and I don't know how long this is going to last. This is a very – it's not even a unique situation. Anthony Davis had a similar one a few years ago, but he wasn't as childish as Ben Simmons is. There's a lot here going on, and one thing that I'm very adamant about, you don't get to be a LeBron James, you don't get to be a Michael Jordan, a Kobe Bryant, a Larry Bird, in any of these guys by doing what Ben Simmons is doing right now. This will destroy his reputation for his career, in my opinion. You can argue Anthony Davis came to LA and everybody forgot about it, but that's not as severe as what we're currently witnessing. So, with that being said, we're bringing in our good friend of the show, Dom Amoroso. Dom, it's great to have you back today. It's been a little bit since we've had you on, but yeah, there's a lot to break down. First things first, how are you, and welcome back.
Fellas, it's great to see you. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope the fall is off to a good start for all of us, and I appreciate you guys bringing me back.
Well, first of all, Doc, thank you for coming back. Long time no see, and we definitely got to go out and get something to eat again. And I think we're overdue for that.
Absolutely.
And real quick before we get into it, how's the Amoroso Files going? For those who don't know, well, I can let you explain. Do you want to explain what the Amoroso Files is?
Sure. Yeah. So as those of you who follow the show know, by trade, I'm a basketball coach. I'm actually taking this year off against the wishes of many to finish up school. And I've started my own NCAA certified scouting service called the Amoroso File, mainly dedicated to the Division II and Division III prospects in the Philadelphia area. We have some great scouts in our area: Randy Miller, Rory Rosenfeld, Alan Rubin. Those guys do a great job of helping and highlighting kids that are really meant to play at the Division I level. And I felt like the small college kids, the kids that were, are built for D2 and D3 schools, weren't getting the same amount of attention. And that's to nobody's fault. That's just what it's always been. So I decided to explore that lane, talk to a lot of people, some of my mentors in the business, and they were all for it. So it's been going pretty well. I just wrapped up the Chichester Fall League down at Chichester, the school I used to coach at. Clyde Jones did a great job once again running the Fall League. Had some really good Chester and Delaware County teams in there, some of the better teams in the Central League and the Del Val, even one or two from the Chestmont. So it was pretty good. I appreciate you asking.
Look, man, I've been keeping up and watching for sure. So you're doing great work. Continue to do what you're doing. And Zach, you ready?
I'm ready to get to it. So with that being said, Dom, first question to you. I mean, just kind of unpacking the whole Ben Simmons scenario, I guess I would start by going back to the summer when he said he was not going to show up to camp. Now he decided to randomly show up on a random weekday, like 2 weeks ago, for a preseason game to take his COVID test, go through conditioning, things like that. And now here we are standing here where he's been suspended for a game. At first, it seemed like it was going well. He was at training camp. He was practicing. A couple pictures surfaced of his lack of interest at tryout at practices. And now we stand here today where he's been fined $1.4 million. He's been suspended for a game and is not on the plane en route to New Orleans with the team.
Yeah. So, in terms of all the, stuff that's been going on, I think, and yes, I'm glad you remembered. I did say that, I don't think that, he's going to show up come next year if he's not traded to this point. What I forgot, in the back of my head at the time was, how driven he is by Clutch Sports. Him showing up to me isn't something he obviously wanted to do. And I think, the events that have unfolded in the past 24 to 48 hours are very indicative of that. But look, let's face it, from a business standpoint for Rich Paul, this is one of his biggest contracts. If Ben doesn't show up, Rich does not get paid. Now, in terms of, the Sixers side, I'm not going to say Ben Simmons is, his actions are justified, believe me. And, I'm sure we'll get to that in a little bit, in terms of, what went on today. His actions aren't justified, but, and I'm not necessarily pointing fingers 100% at Doc Rivers or Daryl Morey or Elton Brand or anybody else in the ownership group. But this is what happens when you deal with a star athlete that has been told he's God's gift his whole life. This is what happens. People may not like that I say that I'm going to say this, but, this is what drives me nuts about Philly fans, right? Listen, Ben is in the wrong here. This is completely unprofessional. I've rarely ever read somebody getting kicked out of the NBA practice. I've never read somebody not wanting to getting kicked out of practice in the NBA because they didn't want to participate in a drill. But the Philadelphia fans tolerated this nonsense, for lack of a better word, for 4 to 5 years. And On top of that, the organization tolerated this. So from the Sixers standpoint, they're not all in the clear either. And to my message to Daryl Morey, who, as you guys know, that I've been a fan of, get him the heck out of here. You got to ship him off as soon as you can. The more you keep him, even now that you've suspended him and he's not traveling with the team, it looks bad for the organization. They have already displayed a certain level of tolerance that they cannot afford to display, and they displayed it. So they screwed the pooch on this one too.
So I'm gonna bring up. I talked to Trent today, and he said, in his words, "Don't disrespect your teammates. Your teammates have a bigger goal, and they don't care about your financial. They don't care about that at all. Their biggest thing is winning the championship." Now, Zach, now going back to it, this team was number one in the East, for crying out loud. This team was they defeated the heated race between Brooklyn and defended off Milwaukee at some parts in the season. So they did their job. If I recall, Ben Simmons was the guy that didn't show up in Game 7, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
He didn't show up all series.
Ben Simmons was the guy, and ladies and gentlemen, this is a consistent theme with Ben Simmons in the playoffs. Let's go back to the first year they were in the playoffs. Remember, Zach, when they go to Boston and they do nothing. When your star player Joel Embiid comes out and says these words, and I quote, he said two things that stuck with me. One, right after the loss, it was fresh off the press. We were here. It was us three covering it that night.
Yes.
Fresh off the press. He said that was a turning point of the game, of him not dunking the ball. And another thing too, and I quote, I think getting rid of Jimmy Butler was a major mistake. Now, looking back at it, Jimmy Butler's went to a finals appearance. Zach, we know how that went. But he's not wrong. Everything Joel Embiid is saying is not wrong. This guy, Joel Embiid, gets criticized day in and day out by Shaquille O'Neal, Charles Barkley, Stephen A. Smith, and every other for him and his style of play. Dom, I think you once criticized Joel Embiid too about his style of play or taking some threes. I think we were all part of it. But the truth comes out. The truth will always come out at some point. The reason why he was doing that was because of Ben Simmons. And Dom, you're not wrong when you said you have a guy that's been told that he was the guy and you're right, Dom, that he was God's
told that his whole career.
The whole career that he was God's talent and he didn't have to fix anything. Years ago, Zach, freshman year to be exact, there was this guy that came up to me and said, you can't be a number one pick and not be able to shoot at some point.
I agree. I agree. It doesn't shock me. Like, people might be surprised by it. I don't think it's shocking. He was always the biggest kid on the court, the fastest kid on the court, the best defensively talented, the biggest frame, the biggest wingspan. When you get to the NBA, you got to realize you're playing against guys that have been here for a while, that they do it professionally, they get paid for it, and now his weaknesses have really shown.
Go ahead, Dom.
No, I agree with that. And, now in terms of, what I would say to Ben is, the NBA and any professional sport, but basketball specifically, where there's so much more time in the offseason spent on individual skill development than any other sport, you have to continue to get better at your craft. Like, one of the things I like, one of the things I like about redrafts, when people publish, those redraft articles on Bleacher Report and all the blog boy sites, is, it's kind of cool to see, oh, well, geez, how did this guy get down to here? How did this guy end all the way up here and he's not even in the league anymore? The answer to that is, and this is what I don't like, is people don't realize that guys develop. Brandon Ingram has developed. Jamal Murray has developed. Ben Simmons has not developed. And to his choice, listen, you are a professional athlete. Nobody else can make you develop but you. You shouldn't need Doc Rivers or anybody else on that coaching staff to say, hey, Ben, we need you to get better. Nobody else should. Today, what happened where you got to the point where you had to be kicked out of a practice is unacceptable and inexcusable. Listen, people can say what they want to say about how, James Harden ended things in Houston. He showed up and played. He showed up and played.
Good.
But, here's Ben. I'm getting paid all this money. My agent has told me to show up. I can't at least give, 50% effort, act like I want to be here. Who the heck's going to want you now? What if I'm any other executive, if I'm the GM in Sacramento, if I'm the GM in Minnesota, and I have all this young talent, is this really an all-star caliber player? Is this really the epitome of an all-star caliber player? I don't think so. You're not acting like it.
Well, if I could say this, and I agree with you, Don. Doc Rivers had this philosophy, and me and you went back and forth about this. His philosophy was, I'm not going to force Ben Simmons to do the shoot. And he took a lot of heat for that because that's one thing we wanted him to do. And Dom, me and you went back and forth about this a lot over before the season started. And Zach, me and you had our differences as well. I said that's not a bad philosophy. Don't force something if he doesn't want to do it. Now, looking at Giannis Antetokounmpo, he worked on his jump shot this past summer. I don't know if you guys got to catch any of the Bucks preseason games.
Yeah, he did. And
he worked on it. And guess what? It looks great. It doesn't look phenomenal. It doesn't look like it's consistent. But now it looks like you have to respect it. That's all we ever wanted from Ben Simmons. Now you have a guy, and Dom, this is like to answer this question as well. You've been around high schoolers because you are a coach, and you've been around the college game as well. I feel like the way how a high schooler and a college player will handle this situation will be way better. You think of guys like James Harden. James Harden didn't want to be there, but he was promised to trade. So Zach, what did he had one instance in practice? The teammates came and said what they said, but you can't say James Harden wasn't there. You got guys like Anthony Davis. He said he didn't want to be there. He still showed up and played. New Orleans practically shut him down themselves. They didn't want him to play no more. Zach, those are the things. There's ways to handle and get what you want. And the way how Ben Simmons is doing it right now is not how you get it done. And you're just ruining your own brand. You are now known as the crybaby. What's another word? Crybaby.
There's a long list of character traits that he has developed in his offseason. And it comes back to entitlement. It comes back to how he had to foresee. I don't know what Rich Paul has told him in the past, like, oh, you have so much power in this case. I think Rich Paul is as much or maybe a little less in the fault as the Sixers organization on how he handled Ben in the offseason. This is not a way to boost your trade value. I think that you need to be cooperative with the organization. Like John Wall has not been traded yet, but him and Houston have been very cooperative on agreeing that they're going to go out and look for a deal. So I don't think that Ben Simmons has done much to help us case in the offseason, and that's going to end up hurting us as the Sixers just as much as Ben because we're not going to find a partner that's going to give us what we want. And at the same time, Ben's going to be stuck in a Sixers uniform for the future notice.
Can I ask you guys this question? It's for both of you. Rich Paul, right? Now, Rich Paul has done a lot of talking. Zach, I told you, I think last week, I said, all right, that's cool. I don't want to hear from Rich Paul no more. I want to hear from Ben Simmons. Clearly, Ben Simmons is not capable of speaking for himself because he hasn't said nothing. So my question for you guys is, if you're Daryl Morey, and if you're the ownership group, and you're Doc Rivers, why wasn't this solved? Like, you know what I mean? Like, Ben Simmons wasn't answering phone calls. You see that these guys are trying to figure out what the problem is. You're not answering phone calls. How they can't play a guessing game on how you feel. So my thing is, go back to this summer. I know there's going to be a lot of people that blame the Sixers for a lot of things. And there's going to be people that blame Ben Simmons. But let's just talk about it. If you're not answering phone calls and you're not saying what the problem is, how can they fix a problem that's not be solved? And you come out and you say these few words. Well, I don't want to play with Joel Embiid no more. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. That's not stating what the problem is. We don't know what's the exact problem. And that's why I'm a little bit disappointed that today's meeting was canceled. I mean, I guess my question for you guys is, how many were you guys looking forward to see what Ben Simmons actually had to say today?
I was curious to hear what he would come up with.
Yeah, so my answer, and being honest, is yes. But in the back of my head, I felt like it was too good to be true. In the back of my head seemed to be right. Like I was like, I'm really excited to hear what he has to speak. I'm in front of the TV and everything. And then, I'm like, wait a minute, he's not going to speak. And then once they, handed out the suspension, I'm like, okay, it was too good to be true. So yeah, like you said, there's definitely miscommunication on both sides, but on the part of Ben Simmons, how do you at least not own up and be a man about it?
I don't disagree with you. And real quick, Zach, if I can, I have a question for Dom. Now, Dom, you the coach. You've been around many some players and been in a lot of practices. Have you ever seen a guy get kicked out of practice and not want to participate in the drill at any level?
No, not wanting to participate in the drill. And that's between high school and a year of being in Division I. No. I've seen guys get kicked out of practice for other things, but not simply for, hey, I don't want to do
and
this.
stuff like
The
that.
fighting, the talking back, even effort arguably, but not like straight up not participating or denying to participate. You're getting paid a lot of money, and if you do that, that's a really bad look for you as a player.
So my last question before we move on for everybody is it already fair to scrap this Sixers season over before it even starts?
I wouldn't be so quick to say that. You do have the defending runner-up in the MVP conversation in Joel Embiid. You do have Steph Curry, Danny Green's healthy again. I mean, those guys worked well last year. I think it comes down to two big factors. Number one is the development of Tyrese Maxey. And if he can be out there and consistently give you 18 a game, which is a tall ask for a second-year player, but if he can go out there and have that kind of jump that we've seen a lot of Kentucky players have between year one and year two, that's going to be a big factor. Number two is the development of the key role players, specifically Shake Milton, Isaiah Joe, a name to keep track of, and Furkan. And then the most important, I guess, one of the last factors is, can Andre Drummond hold the fourth down when he's on the floor and Joel Embiid's off of it? If they do that, they'll be a top 4 seed in the East. I don't know how they'll do in the playoffs, but you are going to miss a lot of that defensive piece from Ben Simmons. So they'll expect Matisse Thybulle to be able to cover a lot of that this year.
Go ahead, Dom.
I think it's too early to tell. I will say this, though. The rest of the East did get better. With me, in terms of, what the Sixers season turns out to be, it may not. To me, it's not 100% about them. It's I looked at them at the end of August and okay, everybody else in the East got better. Miami got better. The Knicks got better. The Hawks, all those guys are continuing to develop. So I think the rest of the East is slowly, but surely going to pass them. The one thing that does concern me with this whole situation is the longer that Ben just sits and you don't make a deal, to bring some more assets in to help Embiid out, the more you're wasting Embiid's window, and that window is dwindling. And I think after this year, we could see it dwindle significantly, depending on what his load looks like. But they haven't even played a game yet. I don't think the sky's falling. Let's just see how they get through these last couple weeks of October and through the month of November.
And real quick, Zach, and this is for both again. Kyrie Irving. Don, what's your thoughts on Kyrie Irving and how that situation is being played, and also with the note of Bradley Beal being able to play in New York with him not being vaccinated either?
So that's a tough one to answer for me. Personally, I don't see what the big deal is. And I'll make it, I make it clear to people all the time when I get asked about this. I understand everybody, they have, a right to their choice. But your right ends when, it affects somebody else, in a negative way. And, I'm not saying Kyrie's a bad person. I'm not saying Bradley Beal's a bad person. I think this conversation obviously extends well beyond basketball. But I think that, the right thing for them to do would to be just to get the shot and get it over with. I will, disclose the fact that, I know a couple people that were, non-vaxxers, and they, their employers did similar things where it's like, we're not going to let you return to the office if you're not vaccinated. They sucked it up and got the vaccine. So to put it lightly, I think, the best thing to do would be for both of them to get vaccinated.
Go ahead, Zach.
Without a doubt, I think that, Dom put it one way as far as your rights kind of stop when they affect others. That's one way to put it. Another way to put it is that the second that you enter private employment within a certain ethical and previously established legal limit, that company has a right to have mandates and have things that you have to comply with, whether or not you agree with them or not. And the NBA, the Brooklyn Nets, it's the city of New York more or less. It's not even a mandate that the Nets have instituted. It's actually the mandate in the city of New York. It's a government mandate. It's the Brooklyn Nets as a team's decision to not have Kyrie play in any game for that matter. It has to be an all or nothing. And as Tom said, the best thing for these guys to do, if they do want to continue playing the sport of basketball at this point, would be to be able to get the vaccine pending any changes to policy, which I don't foresee. And that's, again, up to them completely. No one should be forcing it on them. But if they choose not to, there are consequences to that.
My final word to that is how the hell did Bradley Beal get to play in New York? That's all I gotta ask. How the hell did Bradley Beal get to play in New York? How did he get to play in Madison Square Garden? No one's talking about it. My thing is, if you're going to sit here and villainize Kyrie Irving, the media, I should say, let me be very clear when I say that. Don't forget, Bradley Beal just went to Madison Square Garden and played without a vaccine. How did that happen? Someone has to answer that. Because, Zach, I sent that video to you. I want to know. Regarding to what you guys said, you guys are on the money. I mean, it's a tough situation. It really is.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, with that being said, Dom, thank you so much for joining us. Next time we have you, I'm going to try to get you on the next month as the NBA season continues to get underway. Maybe then we'll start having some clear ideas of how some of these teams with their new rosters are shaping up. Again, Dom Amoroso joining us today, and we'll see you next time.
We're definitely going to dig down for sure. We're going to let me know your schedule. We'll figure out TJ's tripper. We'll try something different. But thank you for coming out.
Oh, absolutely, fellas. Anytime. It was great talking to both of you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, with that being said, I guess the final discussion today, two discussions. MLB baseball, of course, will be coming up here in just a minute. But 2 games tonight between the Brooklyn Nets, Milwaukee Bucks, and then the Golden State Warriors, Los Angeles Lakers. Gavin, no Kyrie Irving for the Nets, defending champion Milwaukee Bucks. It's going to be a good game tonight. I expect Kevin Durant to come out with some fire, James Harden fully healthy, and the roster's improved. I'm going to take Brooklyn in a close game tonight. Giannis still gets his 30-plus, no doubt.
Zach, I don't disagree with you. I think this is going to be a revenge year for the Nets. They got a lot to prove. James Harden, health-wise, and KD just continue to show up. Remember, Zach, KD's long feet are the reason why they didn't continue on in the playoffs. Having saw that, Zach, I got the Brooklyn Nets tonight. I actually got I don't got it being a close game. I have it close in the third quarter, and then the Bucks kind of get blown out. I think they lose by 25 tonight.
All right, we're going to see how that fourth quarter goes for them. And, of course, the final game tonight in opening night. Golden State Warriors, Steph Curry in the lineup, Andrew Wiggins in the lineup. James Wiseman, unsure if he's playing yet. I don't have any confirmations on that. But them against the Los Angeles Lakers, no starting lineups. I will double-check Twitter when that does come out, but I do imagine it will not include all 5 of the dinosaurs. I do think that Carmelo Anthony will be coming off the bench tonight. Possibly you could see Avery Bradley later in the year become that 2 guard, but right now I think it's going to be KCP with Russell Westbrook at the 1, LeBron at the 3, AD at the 4, and Dwight Howard at the 5. I don't expect to see a lot of Dwight Howard tonight. I expect to see a lot of Anthony Davis at the 5. It just works better, but for some reason Davis does not like to start at center, even though the majority of his minutes are played there. So with that being said, Gavin, I do have the Lakers squeezing out a win tonight. It's going to be a very close game. The Warriors obviously not happy with the results of last year's play-in game between the 7 and the 8. LeBron James making a go-ahead 3 late in that game. Steph Curry, MVP campaign, starts tonight. He's going to go off for 40 even though they lose.
Zach, I was thinking 40 at the same time, and that wasn't really playing. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I got the Lakers tonight too. Zach, it's going to come down to the wire. I think the final minute or so in the game is going to be close, but this is going to be the year for LeBron James to show health. Health is going to be a major factor for these guys. I don't see them being the top seed. This is going to be a load managed team through the whole year. But tonight, the Lakers will be 1-0. The Warriors will be 0-1. But Steph Curry is going to go for 40, and I'm excited to watch. 40.
Yeah, I'm excited. Basketball is back. In the meantime, this is the best time of the year. We got basketball, football, hockey, and baseball. As Gavin is doing the pose there. Up 2-0, back-to-back walk-offs. Charlie Morton on the mound tonight for the Atlanta Braves. That game is actually underway right now. And then I believe tonight as well, the Astros and the Red Sox. later on that series at 2-1 as that finished off in Fenway before they go back to Houston. We got a lot to break down on that one coming up.
Would you like to know how you can support the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show? If so, head down to the comments on our YouTube channel. You will see 2 links there. The first is our Teespring, where you can see a wide variety of apparel products, including our signature product, the More Than Philly Sports Talk Show sweatshirts, offered in a variety of different colors, including gray, navy blue, and more. Finally, we have our Patreon page, where you can become a monthly donation member. 10% of all donations go towards an organization of our viewers' choice. We hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and if you can't donate, that's okay, because you can always share this.
All right, it is fall ball, baseball, fall classic, whatever you want to call it, NLCS, ALCS, both on tonight. The Braves have a chance to go up 3-0 on the Los Angeles Dodgers tonight. Both unfortunate breaks for the Los Angeles Dodgers in those first 2 games. Gavin, what happens tonight? We've talked a lot. We've covered the last 2 seasons. We talked about the concerns of the Dodgers. We had this exact same conversation last year. Dodgers were down to the Braves in the NLCS. Dave Roberts' job on the line, unable to be able to get over that hump. Right now, they're down 2-0. They were the second best team in baseball by record this year. What's going on, Gavin?
Well, first, let's talk about injuries, Zach. They don't have Max Muncy. They actually lose Max Muncy to an unfortunate injury in the last game of the season, and he has not returned. Clint Kershaw has not pitched as well. And Zach, I know this man is not anyone's favorite, but Trevor Bauer was supposed to be here as well. And the situation, unfortunate, disgusting situation that took place this summer has made him unavailable. Now, so the guys are there. They still have Max Scherzer. They still have Trey Turner. They still have Mookie Betts. He's like arguably the best player in baseball, in my opinion. The offense of the Dodgers has been lackadaisical as of late, and the pitching is kind of underperformed. It's like what happens tonight is the Dodgers wake up and they win tonight. I don't see the Braves being able to win 3 in a row. But Austin Riley and that Braves offense is a force to be reckoned with. And Jock Peterson, Zach, a monster shot.
Dodger.
A former Dodger early in this year, a monster shot in the right field, and the words I cannot repeat on this talk show, but it was kind of sweet revenge. But to answer your question, it's like Dodgers win tonight.
Yeah, we'll see Walker Buehler on the mound tonight. He has his struggles this year. Mookie Betts, Corey Seager, Trey Turner, Will Smith, Justin Turner, Gavin Lux, Cody Bellinger, Chris Taylor, and Walker Buehler on the mound. I don't know how this team loses. I really don't.
Coming off the bench too, yeah.
This Atlanta team has been incredible this year. They've been great overall.
Don't have
Tonight in Fenway, Houston Astros, Boston Red Sox, 3 Grand Slams, 3 games. 2 games, back-to-back Grand Slams in 2 different innings. Astros won game 1. Since then, they have lost. What happens tonight, Gavin? What goes down in Fenway?
Zach, I want to tell you the Astros win, but it's hard to believe it. The Altuve has not played well at all in this series, and the pitching of the Houston Astros is being really exposed. Zach, they don't have their leader, Justin Verlander, and the bullpen is atrocious. Zach, I actually like Boston. You know why? They got their X factor in Alex Cora. He's motivating guys. This is Zach. You know the crazy thing? This is the same team from last year, right? Except for Kike Hernandez and Kyle Schwarber and maybe a few others. All you get is
a healthier Chris Sale with the end.
Healthier Chris Sale, and you get your manager back, and look at this, and they're on the way to the World Series, in my opinion.
Yeah, the battle of the cheaters. Just kidding, but in all honesty, Red Sox have been great this year. Both teams have been great. I don't know how to feel about this right now. I think that the offense for the Red Sox does cool down just for a night. I do think the series gets evened up at 2 apiece, and they go back to Houston. We can see what's going to go down in the Astros Stadium, but I think the series does get evened up. I do think the Dodgers get a win tonight, although we'll be close. Walker Buehler will have his struggles, but the offense will come around. So that being said, one more announcement. I'm surprised Gavin has yet to bring it up, but similar story to LeBron James in 2016. Go home, win your team a ring, Chicago Sky.
I didn't get a chance to.
WNBA champions. Gavin, take it away.
Candace Parker goes back home, Zach. Wins the championship for the Chicago Sky, Zach. The first one, and I think in their existence as a WNBA team. That was actually an amazing series to watch. Diana Taurasi, Skylar Diggins-Smith, and Brittany Griner fall short. Zach, I was a little bit disappointed anyway coming into this. I wanted the Las Vegas versus Chicago finals. I didn't get it. I ended up getting 1 out of the 2. I'm happy with it. Congrats to Candace Parker, and the image of her hugging her daughter at the end of the game kind of gave me the little Tiger Woods and Charlie hugging at the end of his Masters win. And finally, Zach, before I hand it off to you, it's happening. That time of year is coming, Zach. I'm smiling. Paige Beckers is named preseason Big East Player of the Year, and the freshman
Number 2, though. They're ranked number 2. South Carolina's
ranked number
got their
2 behind
number.
South Carolina, who I don't have a problem
Got their
with
number.
either.
Uh-oh.
And Zach, the freshman, AZ Fudd, Big East Freshman Player of the Year. Zach, we will have to figure out how to get ourselves into a game this year, whether it's Nova or whether we make a nice little trip to Columbia, South Carolina. We got friends down there, so we have a place to stay. But all jokes aside, Zach, basketball is here, and I want to get your thoughts on the Chicago Sky winning the finals.
I feel bad for the city of Phoenix. Back-to-back Western Conference champions in their respective men's and women's NBA leagues and runner-ups. Look, I think the WNBA, it was an interesting timeline this year for the WNBA. I'm not sure if they're ever going to reset that or if they're going to play the way they did throughout the whole summer. It was interesting, to say the least. As Gavin has said before, I think that there need to be one-and-dones in college hoops, because I do think that for a lot of these players, their hype does unfortunately get regressed when they do go from the NCAA women's basketball to the WNBA. That needs to be fixed and addressed. Again, we talk a lot about women's sports on here. I mean, it's entertaining. It's fun to watch. I think that for me at least, I love the LPGA. I think it's awesome. It's been very fun to watch for me over the last few years.
I've been getting into
everybody watched the College Softball World Series. Everybody watches that.
Oklahoma,
everybody watches March Madness on both sides. The WNBA does have some work to do to continue to promote their sport. It's moving in the right direction. It's nice to see another great storyline. Sports, no matter where it is, storylines are always there. This is just one of my big takeaways from this WNBA season.
I mean, Zach, you got the younger. I think for me, what the WNBA was, and it was hard for me to get into it at first, was because some of the players that are known, the Diana Taurasi, the Sue Birds, they are on the older side of the spectrum. So a younger person is hard to relate. That's why you find people, like for me, it was more Asia Wilson, because that's more relatable to us. But the one and done rule needs to be experimented in for the WNBA. I mean, they had people like Paige Beckers and Zaya Cook and a few others just waiting for their 4 years so they can go to the league. Is just absolutely insane. That needs to be fixed automatically. And finally, Zach, women's sports is fun to watch, especially the College World Series. Zach, this is actually the first time I actually watched the College World Series to a full. And the first thing I thought about, I was like, damn, Oklahoma is really like the Alabama of the World Series. It's crazy to think that. Like, the dominance that they have in that sport and the dominance that Alabama has
too. I mean, they're throwing 60 some miles per hour from 60 feet away, or not 60 feet, 44 and a half feet.
That's unfair. That's unfair.
In the 90s for baseball.
That's unfair. That's unfair. That is really unfair. And Zach, and that just to think of that has me out here wanting to go to a batting range, or not a batting range, a batting cage.
You're confusing sports now.
Well, listen, we went to the golf range, the driving range a couple last week, I think, and I actually did pretty well. But it's like they has me want to go in the batting cage and actually start swinging again. I know it's not going to be pretty, but it's not going to have the hits that you have. And Zach, I'm marking my calendar for Tiger Woods' return. I'm getting excited. I don't know when he was spotted on the golf course. Zach, I need to know. And when he comes back, I'm gonna be glued to the TV. This is must-see TV when he comes back.
Yeah, we don't know quite yet. This week does mark 2 years since his last victory at the Zozo Championship in Japan. Speaking of golf, this weekend was another event held. This was a crazy weekend in sports as a whole. This weekend specifically, Rory Mcilroy, a name that has been in and out of top-notch golf. He was last seen emotionally after the Ryder Cup after an unfortunate defeat to Team USA. McIlroy's been struggling with his identity as far as who he is as a golfer, what he does. He was very open about it in the past. This week, his first start of the new season, the CJ Cup in Las Vegas, and he won 25 under total. He defeated both Colin Morikawa, Keith Mitchell, and Ricky Fowler. But Ricky Fowler, a player as well who has had bigger struggles than Rory, bigger struggles than a lot of these guys, has missed the cut for a lot of tournaments, I'm pretty sure every major last year he did not participate in, which is the first time in his career. He had been in the most majors since 2010. And last year, missing start with the Masters, he was unable to get in. Big week for him as well. He's moving in the right direction. Rory McIlroy moving in the right direction. I'm going to say right now, the best players are playing at their best. I do confidently think, Justin Thomas, just reading some names off here, Tyrell Hatton, Jordan Spieth, Xander Schauffele, Victor Hovland, all in the top 20. Guys of that talent. Gavin.
I'm scared to ask.
I'll say it in a minute. I'm at it, but I'll say it in a minute. Brooks Koepka, Tony Finau, and then Dustin Johnson tied 45th at 14 under on the week. But overall, not a bad week for Dustin Johnson. I know that, of course, that's
you can blame me. I guess you can blame me for all the Dustin Johnson fans.
But I'll say this: it is the fall golf season. The fall golf season is a little bit slower. You're not going to see the most competitive fields. This was a great field this week. The Zozo Championship will be a competitive field as well. And then you'll get into the Bermuda Championship, OHL Classic. Houston Open will have a few good players, but between that and the American Express, which is on January 20th, that's kind of the break in the season before everything starts going. But starting January 20th, every week is going to be top-notch golf. It's the American Express, it's the Farmers Insurance Open, the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, the Phoenix Open, the Genesis, the Honda Classic, the Arnold Palmer Invitational, and then the Players, the Valspar Championship, the Texas Open, and then the Masters in April. So that's going to be the big run. Fall golf is slower, but overall, Rory McIlroy, congratulations.
I'm just waiting for it, Zach. I'm just waiting for all the Dustin Johnson fans to
keep betting on him. Keep betting on him. He'll win eventually.
Dude, the mess up part is the week I didn't do it, Zach. I went with somebody else. He actually won.
Yeah, during the Ryder Cup, he had an amazing performance. So, hey, we'll see. Bryson DeChambeau yet to make his debut this season. Of course, I'm excited to see that as well. But with that being said, that about covers everything as far as we know. I think we did cover pretty much everything, hour 15 or so here on the More Than Philly Sports Network. Great to catch up with all of you as always. And until next time, have a great one.
Have a good one, everybody. I'm sorry, Dustin Johnson. I'm sorry.
If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't. In addition, hit that bell icon and set it to all to get reminded of when we go live and when we post excerpts of our videos. Again, thanks for watching.